we're gonna do the sky, and it's gonna be a night scene. So I'm gonna go ahead and put my moon over here. I already have a dark spot for it, as you see. I'm gonna use using this tape as a stencil, something like that. So that's going to be our moon. Now I'm going to go ahead paint around it. I already have a mixture of ultramarine blue and gray, and this is a darker mixture of that ultramarine blue and a bit more black in it. If you want to if you want to follow this technique, I recommend pre-mix your paint. It really helps. I'm gonna use a flat brush. You could use a bigger flat brush if you're more comfortable working with a smaller one. And I have a mister bottle. I'm gonna go ahead, mist the canvas a bit. And I'm gonna move the moisture around with another flat brush. Just move the moisture evenly on the canvas. Maybe a bit here. I'm just gonna go ahead, paint my sky. And before I let you go, just around the moon, I'm gonna go ahead, paint it the same way. I'm not gonna paint them over the moon, obviously, so we know where it is. Just covering the canvas. Nothing to it, really easy. Once you have pre-mixed your paint, just go ahead and, crisscross motion, left to right motion, whatever motion is your motion. Alright, so the sky is fairly dry. It's not perfect coverage, but it's okay because I'm gonna have trees here and there. It doesn't have to be perfect. But if I wanted to be perfect, I would have to go ahead and apply another coat. Redrew the moon. I'm not gonna go ahead and paint the moon just yet. I have a lighter value of that color in this cup. Just added some white to this, and that's the darker value. I'm going to start with a flat brush or filbert brush and a mop brush. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to go ahead and paint around my moon with that lighter blue, and this eventually going to be the halo around the moon. And it doesn't have to be a perfect circle because, in reality, when you look at the moon, the halo around it is not in perfect circle, so some areas can be, like here, for example, could be a little bit wider than other areas, Nothing in nature is perfect. And with another filbert brush, you could use the same filbert brush, just clean it up. But for the sake of the video, I'm just going to use another. And I'm going to go ahead and paint around that lighter color with my dark sky color. You gotta be a little bit quick with this. Oopsie, just dropped my brush. And just go ahead and paint right into it a bit. And with a mop brush, I'm just gonna go ahead and tap. Now you may have to, repeat this process a few times. This darker color is essentially the sky color, so it's gonna dry as the sky color. It looks a bit darker right now, but that's because it's wet. And I'm just gonna tap. Just like so. Create a very soft halo around this moon. Get the excess paint off of your brush with a paper towel or something. Dry it very well. Now I'm gonna get some of that darker sky color. Just gonna go ahead and paint around this. As I said, this will dry the same as the sky color, so you won't be able to tell. But just in case, I'm gonna go ahead and just soften this as well, so we don't create a line or something like that, a hard lines. When it dries, it's gonna dry same as the sky color. Alright, my canvas is dry now to the touch, and you will see the halo around the moon. Fairly soft transition between that area and the rest of the sky. I'm gonna go ahead and paint the moon. I have some white, some gray here, a little white. I have some gray, which I'm gonna use to paint my moon. And remember, we didn't use any mixing medium extenders or anything like that. If you use extenders, retarders, to extend the drying time of your paint, it would be a little bit easier to work with it, you know. Another thing you could do is to take a blender brush, paint your sky the way you would do, paint your moon, which is basically a white circle, whatever. Take a blender brush, pick up lighter value of that color, a mop brush or a blender brush, little paint. Get the excess paint off of your brush and go ahead and create this effect with dry brush technique. You could do that as well, you know, there are several different techniques to do this. So pick up your soft blender brush, and this is dry now. Assuming that this halo wasn't there, you would go and with some dry brush technique, you would bring this lighter value around your moon. You're probably not going to be able to appreciate what I'm doing because it's basically the same color, same value. But this is another technique that you can do if you don't want to go ahead and, you know, do wet on wet blending. You could do dry brush technique, something like this, and just fade it away into the sky like that. And create some halo around the moon that way. So these two techniques I know. If you know of any other technique, let me know in the comment section. And even better, if you want to drop a link to a video that you have seen on YouTube, or even better than that, if you're an artist yourself and you have a better video or a video that demonstrates a different technique or a better technique, you could even drop that link in the comment section, and I would be happy to, you know, see that and review that, and we can even make that a little advertisement for your channel. So yeah, try it at home, try different techniques, wet on wet blending, dry brush technique. There are so many different things you could do. You could use extenders, retarders, extenders to extend the drying time. You could do that too, or you could do mixed media. You could paint the whole painting in acrylic, and when you want to work around the moon, bring oil. And obviously it's easier to blend and create soft transition with oil. Okay, so you can do that too. You can apply oil on acrylic, not the other way around. So that's also another way to do this. So this is dry brush technique, you know. You can go ahead. Just with the, if you choose the dry brush technique, don't pick up a lot of paint. Very little paint, if any. Okay, and like so, you can create cool halo around the moon. Now this paint that I'm applying is gonna look a little darker than the one I have because it's wet. Once it dries to that, to the same color. So, and this is another technique. Alright, trees in the background are not that tall, so we're gonna do a few evergreen trees and other type of trees. So we're gonna go ahead with painting the trees using a fan brush, and I'm gonna use the corner of the brush to drop these trees, and I'm using raw umber and black really for the underpainting or the dark tone, like so. And maybe one more. We're gonna have more trees in the foreground over here, so just use the corner of your fan brush, and I'm working with acrylic paint. You can use the same technique with oil. This is actually oil brush. It's not an acrylic fan brush. And like so, we can drop the underpainting for a few trees. And remember, this is just a dark tone for these trees. We're gonna go ahead and highlight them. And as we move to the foreground, we're gonna drop larger trees. Continuing with the fan brush, and same dark mix, and basically indicating where we want the trees to be, and then later on we're gonna switch to highlighting. I'm thinking maybe this tree comes a bit higher over here. Down here it doesn't matter much, I'm just gonna drop in that dark. I'm just gonna go ahead and drop my dark over here. Just like that, I'm gonna drop in the underpainting for these trees and bushes. I'm using my mop brush and ultramarine blue, white, and a touch of raw umber to highlight these trees. And this brush comes to an chisel edge, as you see, and it's excellent for highlighting these trees. You could go ahead and use your fan brush if you're more comfortable with your fan brush. Now for the distant trees, I'm not going to go very bright, and maybe for the trees in the foreground, the bushes in the foreground, and maybe up here where they catch the moonlight, I go a little brighter. The trick with these trees is to leave some of the dark in between your highlights. Don't highlight everything. And well, this particular scene is a night scene, so I can go a bit darker in the background and behind that cabin and really in the distance. So what you see over here may not work with a daytime scene, so you gotta modify things a bit. And we're just gonna paint impression of snow on these branches and pine needles, stuff like that. So we're not gonna paint every branch or every little details. It's just an impression. As you see, I'm gonna be fairly dark back there as we don't get a lot of light over there. You may be tempted to highlight everything, and you may be tempted to highlight it with really a light value of blue, but you can always highlight. So go a bit darker, stand back, look at your painting, if you think you can go a bit brighter, then you can go ahead and make another mix and go over it. This is acrylic, so you can do that, and if it was oil, you could still do it. You could let the painting sit for a couple of days, dry, and then do another coat. Just like so. Leave some dark, almost like intentionally missing a few spots. Follow the pattern of the tree, the Christmas pattern, the Christmas tree pattern, and highlight. And you don't want to highlight very much down there, as it doesn't get a lot of light. Just like that. Get rid of hard edges and soften a few. Let's do this big one over here, and remember, this is just the mid-tone. Like so. It's really random, very impressionistically done, and we're just creating illusion of, you know, evergreen trees with a bit of snow, you know, sitting on these branches, and very dark down here. Continuing with this brush and very randomly applying our mid-tone. Time to time you can smoosh some of this paint with your fingers. As I said, I tend to go a bit lighter with the highlights at the end of the painting, and a bit more conservative at this stage. So for example, if I want to go a bit lighter over here because of the moonlight, I can go ahead and apply more highlights over here, even lighter maybe. Let's go a bit lighter so you can see. Here we go. Maybe it's catching a bit of that moonlight. If you want to create drama in your painting, you can't highlight everything all over. You gotta show some dark here and there. Here we go. So some highlight for this tree as it catches the moonlight. We can go ahead and highlight this part as well. So this way we can capture some light as well. But don't overdo it. Alright, I'm gonna pick up some ultramarine blue, some white, and we're gonna go ahead with the lighter value of our mid-tone and drop some highlights for these trees. Same brush, same technique. this won't be the final highlight. You know, we slowly build up. A little lighter value. We're gonna keep those trees fairly dark. Still random. And notice I don't have lots of paint on my brush. You don't want to pick up a lot of paint and slam it on your canvas. It won't give you this effect. So almost dry brush technique. A little paint if any. It requires frequent reloading, but it's worth it. Gives you better outcome. Maybe we pick this one as well and just a bit highlight. Just like that. A little paint on the brush, if any. A little paint goes a long way. Now this bush is gonna be gonna get a little bit lighter value with the highlights because we have the light from the cabin and we're gonna have a street light over here, a street lamp, so we can get away with lighter highlights over here. So I'm just gonna go ahead, for example, some of these bushes over here. I'm gonna go ahead and bring impression of snow. We're gonna go ahead with the mid-tone. And soften a few. A bit more of snow over here. And remember, this is the shadow color or the mid-tone. We're gonna drop the shadow color first. And this tree over here, small tree over here. We're gonna go ahead and highlight it the same way as we did other trees. And we're gonna have more of these bushes down here. And maybe some rocks even. Maybe snow is sitting on some rocks as well. And I'm gonna go ahead, add more white to my blue and drop a few highlights. Let's see. And again, this is not the final highlight, so don't rush into final highlight. painting the impression of snow, and obviously it's catching some of that light. And this is not final highlight. We can always come back and drop a few more, maybe add some yellow to our mix. Impression of the light hitting these trees and bushes. When you're painting rows of bushes and trees or rocks, leave some dark in between so you can indicate the individual, elements. For example, here I'm going to go ahead and highlight this bush over here, just like that, and I'm going to leave some of that mid-tone and then highlight another bush over here. Just like so. And I'm gonna highlight the rocks the same way. Using same brush, you could use a filbert brush. Let's do it with a filbert brush as well. Doesn't matter what brush you use. You could use the same, just like that. And just smoosh the paint, get some softer transition here and there. Leave some of that dark in between your, rocks, elements, whatever you're painting, and bringing in some highlights. Just like that. Very impressionistically done. Of course, this is not, photorealism or hyperrealism. Some highlights and soften it. So that's with the filbert brush, and I'm gonna switch to my mop brush, and I'm just gonna drop in a few indication of highlighted snow on these bushes. This is not straight white. I'm gonna leave the straight white for the right at the end of the painting if I need to highlight any areas. This has there's still some blue in it, And I'm gonna soften the bottom of all of these highlights. We haven't painted the street lamps and the rest of the elements, so once we do that, it will make more sense. We're going to bring a little bit more highlight to this tree. Even though it will look extremely bright, it still has some blue in it. It's not a straight white. Always leave your straight white for the end of the painting, you know, because if you use it early in the painting, you know, you can't go whiter than white, and you're gonna have problem at the end if you want to highlight something. Now I may add more elements in here, maybe a rail fence or something like that later, but for now I'm gonna keep it as it is. Let's go even higher. And I don't want to lose this sketch, so I'm just gonna make sure I don't cover that area. And we're gonna go ahead, use the same colors, basically raw umber and black, and same brush, drop a few more. And they're gonna get highlighted the same way we highlighted those trees. I'm going to show some of the sky in between these trees, just make it a bit more interesting. Just protecting that sketch. And maybe a smaller one. We definitely don't want to make all of them the same height. We're not painting a fence, so just be mindful of that. And maybe more, maybe one or two more this side. Now we're gonna have maybe another tree over here, maybe not, but we're gonna drop these trees anyways. Now you could just push up like that or push down, doesn't matter. maybe a small one here. I'm using very dark color for the underpainting because it's a night scene, so we're gonna highlight it a bit lighter with the ultramarine blue and white. So some more trees on this side just to balance the painting. And maybe we drop one more here. And still going with the corner of that brush. Just very light touch right at the top if you're a beginner artist. If you're more advanced, then you know this. Very light touch, and as you move down, you know, you're gonna have heavier touch on the canvas and press harder basically to paint these trees. Alright, now I'm gonna switch my brush, switch gears here. I'm gonna wash that brush. We're working with acrylic paint, so you don't wanna let that paint sit on that brush for too long, otherwise you will lose your brush. So if you work with acrylic paint, always remember that. Put a bucket of water next to you and drop your brushes into it. I'm gonna switch to a 2-inch brush, and I took a pair of scissors and cut this brush on an angle. So I'm gonna use basically the tip of this brush, this corner, and I'm gonna use the same colors, raw umber and black, to go ahead and draw some impression of different type of trees maybe. And same idea, we're gonna go ahead, highlight them, you know, and drop impression of snow over there. And I'm just gonna use this to protect my sketch. And this corner of this brush is excellent for creating impression of like foliage and stuff like that. Maybe different type of evergreen trees. I don't know. Just like that. This outside edge is more important than when you do inside. So just be mindful of that. And just all right. A bit more here, and same idea. I'm just gonna go ahead. Now you could use a masking tape, you know, to protect your sketch. I just find it this a bit easier. I'm going to switch to my fan brush, smaller brush, and just continue. Same idea. Drop some impression of trees. And just cover this area basically. Drop some underpainting. Now you could do the same thing with the fan brush. If you don't have 2-inch brush or bristle brush, or if you're not comfortable using a bigger brush, you could just use the corner of this brush and just like that, impression of some twigs and branches and foliage and stuff like that. We're going to go ahead and highlight with ultramarine blue and white, basically drop impression of snow. But for the underpainting, you could use the same brush. You don't have to switch. And I'm going to drop some dark in here as well. Cover a few areas, some touch-ups wherever it needs a little bit more dark. Maybe this one comes a little bit higher. Alright, with the same brush, fan brush, and a mix of ultramarine blue, white, and a bit of raw umber, we're going to make a dirty blue for the mid-tone for these trees. I already did the same thing over here, and it's in a video, so you could go ahead and watch that. I'm just going to show you a bit over here, just like that. You can go ahead and drop the mid-tone for these trees using the same brush, fan brush. And maybe here and there, soften a few edges. Or soften some of the paint rather, And that's the mid-tone for these trees. Now I really like to use a different brush for these trees. I usually use a mop brush, and I did those trees with a mop brush, but I just wanted to show you that you could use same brush, same fan brush, but let's do it with this brush now. A bit more control, maybe different texture, I don't know, a bit more, definitely more realistic maybe, I don't know, it's my opinion. Not a lot of paint on the brush. And you're just dropping the impression of snow, and this is the mid-tone, this is the shadow color for the snow basically. And leave some dark in between your brush strokes. Intentionally leave some dark, and most of the brush strokes are just random because these trees, these branches and snow, they're basically growing into each other. All these trees are growing into each other. It's a night scene, the trees are far away from you, you don't notice which branch or what pine needle belongs to what tree. So just go ahead and take it easy, randomly apply paint, and a few more. Here we go. We don't want to go too bright, because if you go too bright, then it will look silly, because it's not going to look as dark as we want to imply the night scene. So wherever you think is too light, you can go ahead and paint over it. Like over here, I think I went a bit too darker than I wanted. So here we go. I just make a darker mix and I paint over it. So that's my dark tone for these trees. I mean mid-tone for these trees. And I'm gonna do the rest, and we're gonna do these two together. Alright, those trees done. I'm gonna go ahead and use the same brush, basically same colors, raw umber, ultramarine blue, some white. Now these trees maybe they catch the moonlight a bit more, so I'm gonna go a bit lighter with the mid-tone and the highlights. So I'm gonna use the same brush, little paint, very little paint on the brush. I'm gonna get the excess paint off of my brush, and I'm just gonna come up here. I don't want to kill all that texture that we created. Just randomly applying some impression of snow, maybe on these trees. Something like that. I'm gonna keep some of that dark, especially when we get close to the house. You want to show light and you want to create drama in the painting, you gotta have some dark. You know, knowing it is one thing, applying it on the canvas is another. So, but at least you gotta be mindful of it. You gotta have some dark. So, same brush, same random brush strokes, little paint if any. We're gonna go ahead and drop this dark mid-tone for these trees. And same idea here. Let's create some more. Some impression of snow, some of those trees fading in the background, moving away from us. And we will decide later in the painting how we're gonna finish this area. But for now, we're gonna drop some of this darker color here. Now for highlighting, I can use a fan brush or use the same brush, it doesn't matter. Let's do it with a fan brush because most of you guys you know, learn how to, you know, painting these trees with a fan brush. So let's just stick with the fan brush. I'm gonna make a lighter value of that color, basically same ultramarine blue and white. I have some paint on my brush. I'm just gonna go ahead and where we get the moonlight, apply some highlight. Now this is not going to be the final highlight, you know. I'd rather start slow and see what the feel of the painting is. If it needs lighter value of that color, a bit more highlight, you would say, I'm just gonna go ahead and do that. Otherwise we leave it as it is. And this fan brush is excellent for creating this kind of texture. And I just want to soften a few. You could create impression of layers by leaving some dark here and there. Like over here, it's one layer too. So that's how you can create, you know, some impression of, you know, depth in your painting. Maybe over here, for example, a few more. Now we can go ahead and use the mop brush as well, because this brush, when you press it against your palette, it opens up, and it also creates a, you know, cool effect. Let me show you, for example, here. As you see, I don't know if you could appreciate it. Let's give you a close-up. Press the brush against your palette, you know, open up the bristles, and maybe we can experiment over here. Here we go. This also gives you cool effect. If you don't want to use the fan brush, especially for these trees in the distance, you can use this brush and this technique. Here we go. Just have to build it up. You can go slow. You don't have to finish the painting right away. You know, it's not a contest, not a race. Just take it easy. Here we go. This brush also create cool effect. You see on YouTube a lot of artists try to paint quickly because they are filming and they are against, time is against them. They're rushing to finish a painting in like 20 minutes, 25 minutes. But when you paint at home, you don't have that problem. Take your time. Here we go. Okay, so fan brush and a mop brush. You choose what you're comfortable with, you know, how you want to highlight your trees. It's either or. We can switch to a fan brush now. Sometimes this brush creates better texture. Depends. I really like to use my fan brush for trees in the foreground, and the mop brush when I don't want a lot of texture. Like this brush, you see, it creates a bit more texture, as you might appreciate over here. Okay, so these are the differences, and you choose what you like to do, what you're comfortable with. So we're gonna retire that that brush. I just dumped it into a bucket of water. Always remember that when you're working with acrylic paint, save your brushes. And we're gonna go ahead and use this mop brush to highlight those trees as well. And same idea as the mid-tone. I'm just gonna go ahead and drop some of that lighter value over here. You don't want too much paint on your brush, so get the excess paint off of your brush and very gently follow the pattern of the tree. So it's not completely random, but it's random. So I don't know if it makes sense, if it makes any sense to you guys. And let's just bring these two together. Here we go. We can pick up a liner brush. Mars black, and we can come up here and tint that pink with some water, and we can come here and just indicate impression of maybe some branches and tree trunks, but we definitely don't want to do a lot of it, just a few, just indication that they actually exist. And just a bit more of that highlight color. Something like that. You don't have the problem adding of oil paint on the canvas. So I'm just gonna go ahead and use my raw umber, some red, some black, which are really complementary to each other. Black has some red in it, raw umber has some red in it. So just gonna go ahead and do the underpainting, put this home. This is the, you would say, boring part of the painting. I don't know. I don't think it's boring, but some people find it a bit boring. So we're gonna go ahead and do some editing with this part, but I just want you to see a bit of how I do my underpainting. And just drop some color on the canvas. So this process can take a while because you really have to build up lots of details in this home. Of course, you can decide how much details you're gonna indicate in an element, but it could take a while, or you could just take a palette knife and paint a very simple cabin and call it a day. So it's really up to you, the spectrum of what you're gonna do. But you know, it's good to always challenge yourself. So under the eaves, I'm gonna go a bit darker, as you see. I'm gonna pick up a bit more lighter red and get a good blend. And we are still at underpainting part of it. I mean, just building up, you know. So we want to give some character to the home and to the, in this case, the stucco on this home. So don't try, that's my opinion, don't try to get a very smooth, you know, finish one color. Get different values. Let it look natural. Some red, some darker red. Here's a bit lighter red over there. Just blend it out. Maybe some darker value of that. Add some black. Here we go. Right immediately next to it. And that will create some transition of colors or values, different values of red. Here we go. Now we can exaggerate some of the lights, some of the highlights. That's okay. Again, under the eave, I'm gonna go real dark. I think it will look better. And then immediately I'm going to pick up some bright red and get a good blend. Here we go. And maybe some red over here, just to be able to separate this side of the home, the front of the house that is facing us, with that side. Bringing in some lighter value of that red and drop it right around the windows. Maybe some reflection from the light from the street lamp on the stucco. We will see. I'm not painting from a reference photo, so everything is from my imagination. Everything is made up as we go. So some lighter red, but not too bright. It's still a night scene, and you want to convey that feeling. And the only way that you can convey a theme or a mood in a painting is by using colors. You know. Can't put a sign up here, this is a night scene. You know, the viewer has to decide for herself or himself. So some more red. And same idea for up here, and the rest of the roof will get snow. And we're gonna go ahead and use ultramarine blue and white, and this side is not getting a lot of light, so we're gonna just go ahead and paint the same value. so they all work together. A bit more red. Maybe some around here. And just smoosh it. Just like that. Some finger painting here. Alright, so I'm gonna go ahead and switch to ultramarine blue and white. We're gonna go ahead drop the roof, so we have an idea of how the house will look like with the roof on and the snow. And then if we have to work on this, we will again. We have to paint the windows and the light as well. Alright, I'm gonna switch to a filbert brush and some ultramarine blue and white. We're gonna go ahead and drop our roof. I'm gonna do the shadow side first for this side of I'm gonna go ahead and do the shadow side first for this side of the roof, which is actually the basic impression of snow sitting on the roof. And a bit lighter value. For up there. And we're going to go ahead and fix that later. So everything on this side gets the moonlight and probably brighter. I'm gonna make this side a bit darker in the shadow side. So this side. Gotta play with the values. Especially when you work from imagination, you know, a bit difficult to decide what, you know, should be highlighted, what not. So we will see. But definitely this side should be a bit brighter. I'm going to switch my brush to a liner just for the fine details around here. Back to filbert brush and ultramarine blue and white. We're just gonna go ahead, drop some impression of snow and moonlight for this side. A bit lighter up there. And of course, this roof line over here. It's in the shadow side, but that window up there may cast some light over here. Get the excess paint off of my brush and just go ahead and do some blending here. And we decide later on what we're gonna do with that. Back to the same color. We're gonna go ahead and do this side of the house as well. bit more details here. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and continue with the liner brush and some raw umber, some raw sienna, and drop in some detail on this side of the roof. And we're going to go ahead, pick up some of that blue, some of our ultramarine blue, some white, and for this side as well, it's a bit lighter value as it catches more of the moonlight. And moving to a larger brush, the filbert brush, just gonna go ahead and blend all those together. Maybe a lighter value of the blue will work better. A bit more white with that blue. And we're gonna drop some too much water on the brush. And we're gonna drop some highlight over here. And give it some texture. Back to my filbert brush, just gonna go ahead and re-indicate some of these shadows. And just blend it together with the rest of the roof and the snow. And creating a bit details in here and some texture, some variation of color. Same over here. And I think we have the basic idea of the roof in place and basic idea of the or how the house is going to look like. I'm gonna go ahead, pick up some blue, some ultramarine blue, some white, and fix the roof line around the chimney. Maybe something like that. I'm gonna go ahead, make some shadow color for the snow and try to get the angle of the roof right. It's kind of tricky over here, and we're gonna go ahead and fix this area a bit. I would say good for now. Maybe a bit more highlight over here. And some of that darker color. I'm gonna do the same thing over here, maybe just some darker red. Okay, not bad. And of course we have to drop in some impression of snow on the chimney as well, but we're gonna let it dry before we do that. Alright, while that dries, I'm gonna go ahead and pick up some orange. And I'm gonna pick up some red. And we're gonna go ahead and work on the windows and bring in some impression of light maybe. I'm gonna go ahead and cover the area. Now this is transparent color, this orange that I'm using. So some of that sketch will remain. That's what I want. Now there are many different ways of painting the impression of light inside a home. Many years ago I watched a tutorial on YouTube, and I don't remember the name of the artist, but he did it this way and I really liked it. So, but there are different ways to do this. Now I'm gonna go ahead and use lighter value of that color. I'm not gonna cover all the way. I'm gonna keep it brighter on top here. I did the same thing for this cabin down there, or smaller home. Let's go ahead and add some white to it. Now when we bring in white into the orange, it makes it opaque. And I'm gonna make it a bit brighter right on top of it there. And maybe with the help of another brush, I'm just gonna go ahead and blend it and soften a few edges. Like so. And with another brush, I'm just going to go soften some of it and create some impression of light. Getting rid of hard edges. And since we have this camera angle over here, let's go ahead and drop some impression of snow up here on these chimneys. I'm gonna make shadow color first and just drop it on top. Maybe break it here and there. Just make it more interesting. And maybe we add some more white to our blue, make it a bit lighter, and just go ahead on this side, drop some highlight. I'm gonna go ahead and work on those windows as well. Same idea. I'm gonna use same technique. Just gonna drop in my orangey red here. And same idea, some lighter orange. The details of the window can be redone after this paint dries. And I'm gonna go ahead, bringing some white in my orange. And I'm gonna go ahead and just soften it a bit. And it's going to be same and more for this window as well. gonna add some white to my orange, make it a little bit more opaque, maybe a bit more. And it really pops against the dark of the home, the stucco and everything. You could just leave it as it is, or just with another moist brush, just tap on it and soften a few areas. Just like that. Now this is acrylic paint, so if you're not happy with how bright it is, you can go back, and once it dries, which is pretty fast with acrylic paint, it usually dries very quickly. Once it's dried, you can go back and apply some more, maybe orange, maybe some white, and intensify that brightness, and just pull down, soften it. Just like so. Again, this is just one way of doing it. And you don't have to do it this way, But this is what I do for now. Maybe I change in future, I don't know, but for now it works. I think it's good enough. And for this window, this time I'm gonna go ahead and pick up a larger brush. Just do it a bit faster. And I'm gonna add again some white to my orange. Make it a bit transparent, opaque, sorry. It is transparent, we're gonna make it opaque. And here we go. And we're gonna pick up another brush, another blending brush, and just go ahead and tap here and there and just soften a few of these things, blend it really. With a liner brush and some of that red, maybe some raw umber, I'm gonna go ahead and indicate a few details for this window. Just a suggestion. Just like that. And of course, we do have a window down here. And let's light that up as well. Why not? Maybe this family don't like to save on energy, and they have all the lights on. Alright, so now that we have the lights taken care of, let's go ahead, pick up some white and some ultramarine blue, a tiny bit ultramarine blue, mostly white, and drop some highlights here. Maybe catches some of that light from that window. Maybe add a touch of yellow or orange to that white, and drop it up here, and just go ahead and smoosh it around, soften it. And same idea up here as well. And just go ahead and smoosh it. Just a bit, just a touch. Just the reflection of that light maybe on the snow here on the roof. I'm gonna pick up some of that ultramarine blue, some white, and I'm gonna go ahead and drop in some impression of snow, maybe down around the windows, maybe down here too. And I'm going to go ahead, pick up some white, make a very lighter value of that blue, and just apply some highlights as it catches light from the window. Here we go. Some impression of snow. And a bit more right here and there. And just blend the two together, the shadow color, shadow for the snow and the highlight. Alright, that's our impression of snow by the windows, and I'm gonna leave it alone for now. Maybe we can come back to it later. I'm gonna stop right now. We covered very well over here. The house is almost done. We have the lights, we have the impression of the snow by the windows. The roof is more or less okay. Could be better, could be worse. Maybe a bit more white up here. Just some highlights. Make it pop a bit. After all, this is the focal point of the painting, this big home. Something like that, and just soften. Always soften when you work with acrylic paint. Acrylic paint loves to create hard edges. That's an area you don't have problem with when you work with acrylic paint, to create hard edges. Moving on with the foreground, working with the fan brush and some dark, some raw umber, some ultramarine blue, a bit black. I'm going to indicate a few bushes, few plants. Right here, the front yard of this home. That's just the underpainting, just dark. I'm going to indicate a few more over here. And we're going to extend that. You know what? Maybe we drop a tree over here. Let's make some more dark. Maybe we drop a tree right here. Maybe a small tree. And some more vegetations and plants. Maybe with some raw umber and black we drop one more tree here. I don't know, just the dark. We're gonna go ahead and highlight it later. Drop impression of snow. I haven't decided what to do with this side yet. I might drop a big tree over here. I haven't decided yet. I want this to be finished, the foreground to be finished, and then I see what works, what not. I think this tree works well over there. Maybe we don't see the whole window, maybe part of it. Right in front of that window, creating some mystery. And some more bushes over here. Maybe some more bushes since we have the dark. And just this is just the underpainting. This is just dark for it. And I'm going to pick up some raw umber. With some raw umber, we're going to indicate maybe a road here. At least some of the road that maybe the snow was removed or melted, whatever. So some of the road you may see. Put the road here, and the rest is going to be snow covered. And maybe I extend that right around here. Well, I'm going to pick up my mop brush. I'm going to pick up some ultramarine blue and add some of that raw umber and black to it. Make it dirty blue, dark blue. And I'm going to come here and drop in some indication of snow, and that's the shadow color for it. A bit lighter, maybe a bit lighter, yeah. And we're going to go ahead and highlight it with the lighter value. wherever we think the light from the window and the street lamp and the moonlight hitting these bushes. But I want to drop in the mid-tone first and establish some dark. And I'm just, tapping like that, leaving some dark in between, really random strokes. We're gonna have a street lamp over here, so a bit more ultramarine blue. I'm just mixing in some more paint, a bit raw umber, and we're gonna come here, same idea as all those trees. Just gonna go ahead and apply some indication impression of snow on these trees, making sure I leave some dark in between my midtone and highlights. And being mindful of the shape of the tree, how the tree is, situated over here. Alright, so applying the midtone for these trees and bushes. And I'm gonna bring in maybe another layer over here. Now I'm gonna add some more white to the same color that I was using, and I'm gonna come here and immediately next to the window apply some highlights. Now don't overdo this part because it's easy to get carried away and highlight everything. When you highlight most of the elements, then your painting looks overexposed and the highlights won't pop the way you want them to be. And by leaving some dark in between them, you can create illusion of, layers, maybe another bush in front of it. Making sure I leave some dark in between. And I'm gonna come over here and same idea. Maybe we have some bushes over here that are getting some snow. Just like that. Maybe some darker color, darker blue. Maybe some darker blue for back there as well. And we're going to come here and just apply a few highlights here, especially next to this window. I'm gonna go ahead and apply some, again, impression of snow with the mop brush. Right into the road, and I have the dark over here, so that works for me. And maybe right around there. And we're gonna go ahead and all the way back there and fade it away into the distance. And I'm gonna bring some umber and just mix with it. Fairly dark. No details in the back. Maybe right here a bit more detail, a bit more highlight rather. Some more bushes and some more, a bit more impression of snow down there. Just like that. Very impressionistically done. And kind of loose and create a mystery. Here we go. Now this is not the final highlight, we are still at the mid-tone level rather. But we're gonna have a street lamp here, so maybe some high in the moonlight, maybe some highlights here a bit. Let's decide. And same here. Now you could use a fan brush to indicate the highlights on these bushes and trees, because snow really takes the shape of the bush. So the way you do your normal highlights and stuff like that, you could go ahead and use a fan brush. Let's do a few with a fan brush. Let's pick up some blue, some white, and let's see what kind of a texture this is gonna create. Let's come over here, maybe here. And as you see, it creates a bit different texture. You know, it's really up to you. You know what you like, what kind of a texture you want to have in your painting. I recommend using different textures depending on the foreground, background, whatever. You don't want to have same brush stroke all over your painting. But this is another way, for example. Moving on with my mop brush. Just gonna go ahead, apply a few more highlights here, and just indicate, you know, impression of the snow on these bushes. Just tapping. When you press this brush against your palette, the bristles open up, and with a very light touch, you can indicate impression of foliage and stuff like that that maybe are covered with snow. And I'm going to bring in some more white. Still, I'm not using straight white for any of these highlights. I'm going to leave the straight white for the end of the painting, but I'm going to bring some white in here, some lighter blue rather, a bit more highlights here and there. I'm switching to a filbert brush, and we're going to continue here, dropping some underpainting for our foreground. I'm using raw umber, and probably add a touch of black to it. For some darker value of it in certain areas. Coming in with some dark blue and even some black for underneath these bushes. Just dropping the dark. Just like so. Now I'm gonna transition that with a little bit darker blue. And even darker. So we have a nice transition right there, and just blend the whole thing together. Bringing in some black, and I'm gonna let it break as I apply it onto the canvas, and this will serve as some texture on the road. I'm gonna bring in some raw umber, same idea, gonna let it break. I'm using the side of the brush and just going like that, and as I do that, paint breaks. So I have paint on the side of my brush, and I just go ahead and run it smoothly on the canvas, and creating some texture on the road. And I'm gonna go ahead and drop same idea over there, this side of the canvas. I went ahead and dropped the underpainting for this area as well. Same idea. And I'm gonna go ahead and highlight it. I'm using ultramarine blue and white. darker in the corners. Not so much highlight here, but I want it to be a bit lighter in value. So for now, that's good. Now I'm going to go ahead, pick up my mop brush. Some of that black, some of that blue. And we're going to make it dirty blue. And we're going to come here and continue dropping impression of some bushes over here and finish this area. Now I'm going to go ahead and paint it fairly dark here. We don't want any highlights here. Just random strokes. Maybe a touch of highlights right around here, because that's in the foreground. I think we have the basic idea of the foreground, how it's going to look like. We have two more elements left to paint. The street lamps. One supposed to be here, the other one I lost. I think it's supposed to be around here, if I'm not mistaken. And maybe a big tree here. But the basic idea is done. Now we have to go ahead and fine-tune everything. A little more highlights. Now I'm using different brush. As you see, I'm using a mop brush. You could experiment with different brushes, see what kind of a texture it gives you, which one you like better. Definitely the filbert brush has a sharp edge, so for certain areas, for example here, I think is more suitable. Something like that. But if you want to paint like a fluffy snow, I think this is also good, this brush. I've done a landscape with this brush. It's on the channel. I'm going to put a visual reference for you over here, and a link at the end of the video. You can go ahead and watch that video as well. I use mostly this brush for impression of snow. And of course you can use a large flat brush as well. Something like that. Bring some highlights around here. Maybe a bit more. We're gonna have the street lamp here, so, and the light from the house. Now the reflection of this light needs a little bit yellow added to it, added to the white. I'm gonna do that at the end, maybe next video or so. Just dropping the basic idea and right here for now. Still a lot of unknowns as far as the lighting of the landscape is considered, because I have to decide what else we're gonna add, so we will see. No rush. And some of my blue, some of my black. We're gonna come here and work underneath these trees and just blend it with the rest of the landscape. And we're gonna keep it fairly dark underneath those trees. Some impression of snow. Meeting the road over here, or the snowy part in the front yard. Here we go. Nice blend. Alright, so big change. I dropped a big tree over here. And I hope it works out. I'm just dropping some black gesso and some raw umber just to be able to indicate it. So let's see. I'm gonna go ahead and paint the sides later. So if anybody buys this painting, doesn't have to frame it. And maybe bring this side right here. Bring in outliner brush and do some of the small details over here. Maybe have a branch here as well. Now I'm gonna go ahead and drop some impression of snow over this tree as well. So this is just the blocking part of the painting, is blocking the element, the underpainting. And a few branches here and there. This tree helps to push the house a little bit back into the painting. I think it helps with the composition. Maybe bring this branch right in front of the window, right here. Just fixing a few details here and there, the thickness of the branches, the main branches, and small branches that emerge from it, just to get the idea right before we go ahead and start highlighting and adding final touches to it. And I'm gonna stick with this for now. We're gonna go ahead and drop some highlights for this side as it catches the moonlight and some of these street lights and stuff like that. With a small round brush, I'm gonna go ahead and work on the tree. I have raw umber, burnt umber, and raw sienna, and Mars black. And I'll be using all those colors back and forth. The shadow side of the tree is this side, so I'm gonna keep that side fairly dark. Just gonna come over here and fix this area a bit, which is a mix of burnt umber and raw umber and black. I'm not gonna cover all that dark. I'm gonna just leave some in between. I'm gonna let the paint break. This is a very beat up brush, so I'm gonna let the paint break to create an illusion of some texture and details on this tree. Leaving some of that background dark in between. By background dark, I mean the underpainting for the tree. Maybe this area is too bright. If you feel like it's too bright, you can always get some black and go over it. Now we're getting the moonlight for this side, we're getting the street lamp casting some light on this side, maybe some light reflecting from the home. So I'm going to go ahead a bit lighter over here with some burnt umber. And you see the way I'm applying the paint is really not intentionally. I'm not gonna get a good coverage. Letting my paint break. And you gotta build on this. It requires a lot of back and forth, playing with the values and colors. Bringing some black. The rougher the canvas, the better for this technique to work. If your canvas is very smooth, it may not work. So you can have, you could use different techniques. A bit more black here, this side. this motion that I'm using the side of the right here, the side of the brush. This will ruin your brush after a while, so use a brush that is, you know, you don't care for. Dedicate a brush for this kind of, you know, work. Don't use your best brush for this. I'm gonna bring in some raw sienna and mixing it with that umber for extreme highlights over here where the street lamp is located. Back to my raw umber and a touch of black. Just blend that in. Trying to capture that light. It's not there yet, but it will be. Working on the big tree for now. Maybe we extend this highlight a bit further than this area, maybe a little down here as well. A bit more raw umber and black. This is acrylic, so the paint that I have over here is already dry. So I want to apply highlights. I mentioned this in most of the videos. If I apply this paint over here and I want to blend it with that color, if this was oil, I would be able to do it because oil dries very slow. So I can come back next week and blend it. But with the acrylic, that paint is already dry. So I have to bring that color again. I have to bring it in order to be able to get a blend over here. So oftentimes people who are beginners with acrylic paint, they wonder why they can't blend. And they watch an oil painting tutorial and they try to, you know, do the same thing but with acrylics. And they wonder why it's not happening. That's the reason. When you watch an oil painting tutorial, that oil paint is already wet. So when the artist brings in a lighter value or a different color and puts on the canvas, as the brush loses that color and moves into the dark part, which is here, start mixing in, start, you know, blending in the colors together automatically. So that happens automatically with oil. With acrylics, you have to do that manually. So this is very important point to consider when you're working with acrylics. It's not necessarily harder to work with acrylics. You just have to keep that in mind. Maybe just some random raw burnt umber applied to the canvas. We'll see how it behaves. Maybe some black over here. some texture for the tree, some details down here. Raw umber, no raw sienna over here, doesn't get much light. We want to keep it dark, definitely down here and the corner of the painting. Keep it fairly dark. Maybe bring in some of that burnt umber now, which is lighter in color, in value rather. Here we go. Maybe it's catching the moonlight. And up here. Time to switch our brush to a liner brush. Now these branches over here, I'm going to keep them fairly dark and not much details for those, but just wiggling my brush, creating some random texture. Now with the same brush, with the liner brush, I'm going to pick up some ultramarine blue. I'm going to pick up some white. And we're going to make a lighter blue value for shadow color of the snow. And we're going to drop a few indications of snow on these branches. Let's see where we're going to do that. Maybe we indicate some snow over here. No, it's not going to be a full coverage all over. Few areas. Maybe here. And this is just a shadow color for the snow. I'm just gonna run my brush like that. I'm gonna let it break. Same as painting your mountain with a palette knife. The brush does all the work for you. Like that. And we're going to come down here, same idea, right by the trunk, maybe over here also. Some snow. Just gonna run the brush this way, and we're gonna let it break. Not the brush, the paint. You don't want to break the brush, definitely not. Unless you're planning to shop new brushes and you need an excuse for it. Just like that, you know. And this is the shadow color. We're going to bring some highlights. And maybe here. Now I'm working with the tip of the brush. and indicate few impressions of snow, maybe heavier where the tree meets the dirt or the soil. Here we go. And of course, lighter value of that blue for some highlights. And maybe here and there some snow on these branches. We're gonna let it break. We're gonna intentionally miss a few spots. Getting the excess paint off of my brush, and same idea, the side of my brush. Breaking some of that paint. A bit highlights here. Just like that. Soften a few. You're gonna have a higher chance of snow gathering on the fork of the trees, so a little more snow over here. And a bit more highlights, and of course some highlights are down here. Now you could use the tip of your brush and intentionally allow the paint to break, or use the technique that I just showed you, either or you could switch your brush to a mop brush and come over here and just tap. That also works. Sometimes I use this technique instead. And soften a few. And maybe I'm working at a weird angle over here because of the camera. But this is the idea. Here we go. And just blend it with the road or whatever the landscape you're painting. Here we go. Maybe some highlights here, since we already with the color and the brush. And I'm going to blend the land into the tree trunk over here, get a nice smooth transition, believable, with the mop brush. Coming in with a liner brush and some raw sienna, intensifying that highlight over here. And transition that with raw burnt umber. Alright, I believe we are done with the tree, at least for now. Maybe later I decide to, I don't know, add something to it, work on it. But I think the tree is in good shape for now. Not too shabby. A few more details here and there with this big tree in the foreground. I think it really helped to push the house back a bit. Maybe a bit more highlight right on this branch, just tapping some white. Now this is a straight white at this stage. I wanted to show against the white of the roof. Here we go. Let's go ahead and make some gray and indicate some smoke for the chimney. And with a moist brush, I'm just going to go ahead and soften some of that and give it impression of smoke coming out of the chimney, and maybe some for that one back there as well. Here we go, just an indication. We don't want to overdo this part. Oops, let's fix that boo over there. Alright, and that's a bit of smoke coming out of the chimney. Maybe a bit white added, just a tiny bit, just a tiny bit. Here we go, and run your finger over it, soften it, and that's our smoke. The big tree is done. The impression of snow is very much in place, and I'm just using some Mars black and a liner brush to go ahead and paint the post. This is a human element. It's not a tree, so it has to be fairly straight. If it was a tree, I wouldn't worry about it. So you could use any tools that you have just making sure it's straight. Something like this, for example. Just making sure we are straight, rather plumb. As I said, it's a human element, so it has to be perfectly plumb. That's the bottom of the street lamp. Now before I go ahead and finish this stream lamp, I'm gonna indicate few bushes over here, right around here. I'm gonna pick up some black and some raw umber, and we're gonna do the underpainting for it. With my mop brush and some ultramarine blue, white, maybe a touch of raw sienna, we're going to go ahead and apply some mid-tone to these bushes. Just like that. Keeping some dark here and there. Working with the mop brush, as I press down on my palette, the bristles opens up, and I can go ahead and lightly tap on my canvas and create impression of snow on these bushes, just like so. Just blocking the pole and top and the bottom of the light fixture. And I believe it's fairly plumb. It's a human element, so it has to be perfectly plumb, but this painting is not going to a gallery. You don't have to be too worried about it, but I'm trying to do a good job with it. I'm going to pick up some ultramarine blue and white with a filbert brush. Just going to come here, maybe a bit more white. Just going to come here and apply some highlights here. It's right next to the lamp, so it's going to cast some light right around here. I hate painting around things. And I'm going to bring in another brush, just soften some of the edges. Getting rid of hard edges. Just blending it with the background. And maybe some highlights here as well. For this tree too. And we're going to blend it in with darker value of that blue. You can highlight everything, otherwise the highlight won't show. You need some dark. So this area we're going to keep it fairly, you know, low key, darker value. Not too much action over here, just because we want to show the light over there. A bit more white mixed in with that blue, and we're gonna drop in some highlights over here, indication of the light from that street lamp. Again, always blending it with our darker blue. Get a smooth transition of colors over here. With some yellow and the liner brush, I'm going to go ahead, drop in the indication of some light. For this street lamp. And I'm going to use a mixture of my Kinkade yellow and white to go ahead and drop in a bit more lighter value up there, maybe even some white. Now I'm going to pick up some of that color with my mop brush, but not too much. I'm going to come here, indicate a bit of reflection of that light on that snow over there and right here. And immediately with my mop brush, just going to go ahead and soften it. Just a hint of that color on the road, on the snow. Get the excess paint off of your mop brush and just go over it again and blend it. Just a hint of yellow. You know, you don't want to overdo this part, definitely not. Now I'm going to wash my brush because I want that yellow to be gone. I don't want to make green. I pick up some of that, my entrepreneur blue. Pick up some of that blue, some of that white. And we're going to come here, drop indication of snow, maybe over this lamp. Now we're not going to cover everything, just a touch over there and down here as well. And down there as well. And with a lighter value of that color, some highlights. And maybe some highlights here. And just soften some of that, just blend it with the landscape. I'm going to bring in some of my raw umber and raw sienna, and we're going to apply some highlights over here as well on the pad, the road, whatever you want to call it. And some darker value. Go back there. Just gonna blend it in. And some of that raw umber again for here. We're gonna get darker as we move away from the light source. You can even add some black to your raw umber. And go a bit darker as you move away from it. And go ahead, blend it. Get rid of the hard edges. With my mop brush, I'm just going to come over here, apply a bit more highlight here. And with another, just going to go ahead and get a soft, smooth transition. I'm just going to apply a bit more of that white over here, and just going to go ahead and just blend it, get rid of the hot edges, get Get the excess paint off of my brush and just like that. Maybe some more over here. And just gonna go ahead, blend that as well. Get the excess paint off of the brush and just move away from the area, and the brush does it for you usually. And like that, we're gonna go ahead and finish that area. Now I'm gonna do exact same thing for the other one. So right now, I believe I am at a stage of the painting that I can call it complete. Of course, more work could be done on this painting, and I may go ahead and work on it. If I do, which I will, I'm gonna definitely put it into a video and show you guys the final touch-ups and stuff like that. But for now, maybe I go ahead and move to another project. I'm gonna put this aside and hopefully I can come back to it later. Maybe before I sign off, maybe a few highlights here and there, maybe over here, maybe some highlights here. And always soften your edges very easily. You could use this brush and highlight your trees and bushes. Very nice brush to have. Some call it mop brush, some blender brush. Here we go. A few more highlights here and there. Soften some of that blended the rest of the elements. Maybe a bit more highlights here. And that's it. There you have it. Thank you very much for joining me, and I hope you try something like this at home. I'm gonna see you with another video hopefully soon. Take care and have fun.